What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a look at Void Shadows, the first of at least two planned DLCs for Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader, introducing two new archetypes, a new companion, and a whole host of story content. First and foremost, right away, I know I sound a little weird, I've been sick. Apologies in advance. Now that said, like pretty much every DLC, this game is launching alongside a free update for the base game that also includes a bunch of different improvements, though I did not have the explicit patch notes for that, so I will only be able to mention a few things that I noticed and have been announced, such as the Grim Darkness mode, the DLC and mod support, and a couple of other tiny things. Now right away, we have Grim Darkness mode, so this is effectively your version of Iron Man that is available when you start a new game. This is going to allow you to effectively take on a single save file that saves automatically in an effort to make the game as challenging as it can be, of course. Now, they have learned from their previous games and have implemented it a little bit differently than, say, Kingmaker or Wrath of the Righteous. For starters, Grim Darkness here is completely separated from difficulty, meaning that while you'll toggle Grim Darkness on at the beginning of a playthrough, you will actually still be able to adjust the difficulty and everything of that playthrough on the fly as you go, so that decision is in the player's hands. They've also changed the conditions of defeat, so to speak. Basically, when your character goes down, that does not actually cause a game over or anything like that, but rather your entire party or your void ship has to be defeated before it's considered a full game over. What's more, though, is if you get tired of this mode, you can in fact convert it over to a normal save file, but of course that decision is irreversible. What's more, though, is if you actually get a game over, you'll also be prompted to either go ahead and delete that save or continue that playthrough via a normal non-Grimdark playthrough. We also see the addition of a DLC and mod screen here. This is mostly just to confirm the DLCs you own, but also to allow you some in-game mod support. It looks like they are using Nexus mods for this, and as I was only testing this while it was not fully in function, I don't have a lot else to say about it, but merely that is here. There are some other small changes to the game as well, like now the game largely performs the calculations for abilities for you, rather than simply showing you the math and the tooltips. It just gives you the finished form of that math, and if you want to see how it's calculated, you can mouse over it, and it'll give you the equation, which is a nice little touch, as trying to decipher what the equation would show you previously could be a little bit of a hassle, especially when you're just trying to look at something at a glance. But with that stuff out of the way, let's talk about what comes with the paid DLC specifically. And that is going to be about 15 hours roughly of gameplay across a playthrough, a new companion, Cabela, who is romanceable, and two new archetypes to further support combat. So first, let's start with the new archetypes. These are the Blade Dancer and the Executioner. Blade Dancer is available right at character creation now, and it's something you can start the game with, and essentially this is an agility-focused melee character. It's also the archetype of our new companion, Cabela. Blade Dancers are all about jumping in and out of combat with their Death from Above ability, which allows them to jump in, deal a bunch of damage to everybody they've hit, and then if they've killed someone, they actually get another charge of Death from Above, allowing them to do this again and stack multiple attacks in a round on top of a whole bunch of movement. Other things they do are essentially drown the battlefield in blood, which very specifically causes debuffs to your enemies and buffs to you, which is important because a fair few of the Blade Dancer's abilities require them to injure themselves and then potentially get that health back through a variety of means. But basically, this is a very strong melee-oriented class that has the potential to deal a ton of damage, while utilizing a pretty unprecedented amount of movement at the same time. Now, Executioner is a second-tier archetype, meaning that you have to be at least level 15 before you jump into it, and it is all about damage over time effects, as well as debuffing the enemy through either just negative effects in general or crowd control. In particular, though, they get a lot of abilities that are centered around either increasing the effects of damage over time, causing it to proc instantaneously, etc., etc. So, if you like playing around with damage over time via something like, say, a Pyromancer, this is potentially something to lead that character into, to utilize all those bonuses to damage over time effects, while at the same time giving them more health than they would normally get, so they are a little tankier at the same time. So some really interesting archetypes to play around with there, but again, I really do like the Blade Dancer one in particular. But what are we actually going to be using these archetypes for? Well, then comes the actual story content of this DLC. Now, for the most part, I don't want to spoil this. I'm just going to talk about some generalities and some things that have already been revealed, so as not to, again, spoil anything for people. But basically, this DLC is centered primarily around your Void ship and exploring it further and getting to know its denizens. You'll see this right away if you start a new game via characters that are new to your bridge, as well as a few different locations to explore right out of the gate. But assuming you're already mid-playthrough, it is possible to play this DLC, in the later stages of the game. I believe it is available in Acts 1, 2, and 4, and under normal progression, it will advance more as you move along in the story. However, if you're already in, say, Act 4 and want to jump into it, first you need to make sure that the DLC is active, which you can do through that DLC menu, I believe, which should then convert your current playthrough into one that has the new content active. But the catch here is if you already are in the late game, you'll still get all of those previous entries in the quest line, but the levels and everything associated with them will be somewhat easier simply because they are not scaled to your level in any way. So if you don't start this quest line until Act 4, it's going to be very, very easy because you're meant to do it in Act 1. But basically, it is available from any point in the story, outside of the acts where it wouldn't make sense for it to be. But right at the beginning of our journey, once we take proper control of our ship and start moving around, we're eventually going to be contacted and presented with a demonstration by your ship's local death cult. Death cults are an interesting thing in the Warhammer universe, as they all worship the God Emperor, albeit through the very specific exaltations of death itself, meaning that they are effectively a group of assassins, and one of them specifically gets assigned to be your bodyguard more or less, and this is Cabela. Cabela is a high-ranking member of this cult and has trained her entire life for it. If you should so choose, she will set you on the path to actually track down this cult, learn more about them, interact with them, which gets the actual proper DLC content going, but also unlocks even more areas of your ship for you to explore personally. Now, it's already well known that eventually this DLC leads you into a conspiracy involving gene stealers, a type of imposter enemy running rampant on your ship. So not only will you get to explore the depths of your ship, but you'll also get to solve this problem at the same time. And overall, I enjoyed that experience a lot. Cabela and her nature as a member of this death cult is inherently very compelling, and the new cinematics are appropriately gory to go along with that, in a way that seems very deliberately trying to deliver an almost more horror-based experience, which I think fits the tone of 40k quite well. Combine that with new archetypes to try out that seem genuinely fun, and a whole host of improvements to the base game, and I think you've got a very good update here. Now, for the paid stuff specifically, speaking for myself, I would have been happy to play this literally just for the Blade Dancer archetype. I think that one's great. But a compelling companion, a really solid story, more exploration, interactions, which are something that honestly I think we're actually missing a little bit from the base game, giving you an opportunity to interact with even other companions via either this new content, but also some special interactions that have been worked into the other content of the game as well, that I can't really explain without just full on spoiling it, but are there nonetheless, also add a good bit to the title. Now, I don't have the exact pricing information, but seeing how all of their previous games DLC were priced right around $12 or $13, I would hazard a guess that's where this one will be. And this seems like a very, very good addition to the game for that price, and that's before you even start talking about the free updates, like the incoming mod support, as well as the Grim Darkness mode, etc. Now, depending on the scope of the patch notes that drop, I might wind up covering that separately as well, but I will ultimately see if there's more to it than what I've mentioned here and go from there. But otherwise, a pretty compelling DLC, and I'm excited to play more of it, as the early version of it that they gave me access to did not actually have working achievements, which I know are coming with the fully released DLC, so I will be playing through it at least one more time, which will give me a good reason to burn through the game after it's received a fair bit of polish from a relatively buggy launch, specifically around the Heretic and Iconoclast playthroughs. But I think that is just about where we're going to wrap up this particular video, though if you have any specific questions, feel free to drop them down in the comment section below, where I will certainly try to answer them. But otherwise, I certainly hope you enjoyed this video, found it informative, etc. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz, but regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.